Welcome to From the VC's Bookshelf, a podcast from TBR, the College System of Tennessee, the state's largest higher education system. In this series, we examine how we might re-envision the work we do and how we work together as we move into a post-pandemic world. Please join our host, Dr. Heidi Leming, Vice Chancellor for Student Success, as she leads a live discussion with industry experts and leaders throughout our system.
The Way of Tea and Justice by Becca Stevens is the featured book for our Fall 2025 podcast series. Tea is a great metaphor for how men and women alike not only reflect on their life experiences, but how we move forward in spite of hardships. It's also a global drink that connects everyone together, even though there are many differences. Tea comes from the same plant, but factors such as how it is processed, where it grows, and its growing conditions combine to provide a variety of teas that differ in taste, smell, and sight. Author Becca Stevens makes the argument that when one thinks about how tea is served, the intention is the essential element. As such, throughout the book, not only is the historical perspective on tea and how it influences culture and society discussed, but also how the individual interacts with tea as a form of reflection and meditation, and that's brought forward as a central element. So we're going to do something a bit different in this series. First, I'm honoring the women leaders in TBR by using the metaphor of tea to reflect on life challenges, lessons, and triumphs. And yes, I am going to be sitting down with each of my interviewees with a cup of tea. We will feature a unique variety of tea each time and ask interviewees to bring their own teacup that has its own story that can be shared with listeners. In this activity of drinking tea together, we'll describe the differences in the tea and the personal stories and reflections of the TBR women featured in this series. But first, I do want to recognize why tea is part of this conversation about women and its place in helping the listeners understand how it connects to the themes in the book around finding peace and justice. For this first podcast, let's share a bit more about the author, Becca Stevens. Becca is the founder of Thistle Farms, a not-for-profit women's social enterprise based in Nashville, Tennessee. The organization began in 2001 as part of a residential community called Magdalene that stands in solidarity with women who have survived lives of trafficking, addiction, and prostitution. Thistle Farms has grown over the years to be a business enterprise that now manufactures and ships almost 500,000 products around the globe each year, and now has been replicated in over 20 sister programs across the country. In Nashville, the Thistle Stop Cafe opened in 2013 with a simple idea. Whatever they serve would be good for the earth as it is for our bodies. It's a welcoming kind of tea house that fosters fellowship and provides healing that the tea provides. When you go to the cafe, you will see a collection of teacups from around the world hanging in a sculpture from the ceiling. So with this background in mind, let's begin today's conversation. And I'm joined today by Dr. Carol Rothstein and Mae Wright. We each brought our own teacups in for this session, and we are featuring a strawberry green tea with matcha. It's a cold brew tea. Matcha is a type of powdered green tea that has a unique and non-bitter taste, a vibrant green color. It has benefits for our brains, heart, and mental health. And matcha is also a source of antioxidants, which can improve male fertility and bone health. So, while many countries associate strawberries with summer, in Japan, they are considered a winter delicacy, carefully cultivated in greenhouses to reach peak ripeness between December and April. And that's the seasonality that makes them especially sought after during Christmas, when they take center stage in Japan's beloved strawberry shortcakes. Known for exceptional sweetness, uniform shape, and delicate texture, Japanese strawberries are often considered a luxury fruit, sometimes even sold individually at premium prices. And so what's unique about today's podcast is that both of the presidents sitting with me today were recently part of an administrative program to Japan, and so we're going to reflect on our experiences in Japan with this tea as well. Let me give an introduction first to today's participants in this podcast. Mae Wright is president of TCAT Hartsville. She's a seasoned higher education leader with over 2 decades of experience in academic administration, workforce development, and student services. As president of the Tennessee College of Applied Technology, Hartsville, since 2005, she has championed strategic partnerships, student success initiatives, and institutional innovation. Mae holds advanced degrees in education and leadership, including a graduate certificate in community college leadership from East Tennessee State University and a master's of education in adult education from Tennessee State University. Her career reflects a deep commitment to inclusive education, faculty excellence, and community engagement, underscored by her active roles on numerous regional boards and advisory councils. Welcome, Mae.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Can you describe for me or our listeners your teacup that you brought today?
Well, my teacup it was given to me by my mother. It was a china set that she gave me, and my mother passed a couple years ago. So I take great pride in this teacup, and I am, again, glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Go ahead and you can start sipping your tea, and we were going to get some reflections here on how that tastes. The other participant is Dr. Carol Rothstein. She is president of Jackson State Community College. She holds an associate's degree in accounting, a bachelor's degree in education, a master's in management and leadership, and a doctorate in higher education administration. Her career in higher education began as an admissions counselor at Blue Ridge Community and Technical College in West Virginia. She later transitioned to faculty and program director of the College 101, which is a program supporting first-generation students. One of her early leadership accomplishments was serving as the founding director of the Morgan County campus of Blue Ridge Community and Technical College. She continued to build her leadership portfolio at Hagerstown Community College in Maryland, where she served as a director of instructional support, services, dean of instruction, and acting vice president for academic affairs. She later joined Nashville State Community College as vice president for academic affairs and workforce development, where she focused on aligning academic programs with workforce needs and ensuring students received a well-rounded, practical education. Since stepping into the presidency at Jackson State, Dr. Rothstein has led college with bold, student-centered vision. Under her leadership, the college achieved double-digit enrollment increases, expanded academic and workforce partnerships, enhanced student support services, and has accelerated growth in athletic programs. Throughout her career, she has championed the belief that education should be accessible to everyone, whether through traditional academic degrees, technical certificates, or workforce training. Her leadership philosophy centers on meeting students where they are, empowering them through education, and connecting them with meaningful opportunities for their future. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
And you want to describe your coffee cup?
Absolutely. So my coffee cup, and on the label at the top, it says many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. And this is Proverbs 31:29. And this was given to me by my daughter. And on the front of the cup, it says, "You are an amazing woman." And so she gave this to me when I became president at Jackson State. Because throughout their life, and I'll get a little teary, as they were growing up, I always wanted to just be an example for my daughters. And that's the reason why I went back to get my education, was to show them I was an educated woman and what women can do. And so receiving this from my daughter really meant a lot to me.
Yeah, that's great. And it happens to be green, which is perfect color for a president at Jackson State.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, so what do y'all think about the tea that we've got today?
I love it.
Yeah, I think it's refreshing and just a little bit sweet with the hint of the strawberries in there.
Yeah.
It's delicious.
And one of the things that we were able to do on the program in Japan is we did a tea ceremony. Do either of you want to describe that experience for our listeners?
Absolutely. I think it was a great experience in where you come together in just small groups, and they bring the tea to you with this little sweet confection along with it. And so it really has the importance of taking a moment to enjoy the simple pleasure of company and of tea. And it was in this beautiful tea house with beautiful botanical gardens around it. So it was a great experience.
Mm-hmm.
It was. I enjoyed it. And I guess we'll get to slurp a little tea.
Yeah. So part of the ceremony is when you get to the end of the matcha tea. And matcha is a little bit different than this green tea. I don't know what you all thought. It's a little soupy, texture's thick.
Yes. I love matcha. I think matcha, yeah. So for me, matcha, I think, is delicious. So that was great for me. But green tea is a little bit lighter, a little more refreshing.
Yeah. So at the end of drinking your tea in the tea ceremony, it's customary as a compliment to slurp the last sip. So listeners, all three of us are going to slurp our tea here for you. I didn't do a very good job of slurping. Sorry. Well, and that was fun. And the confectionery treat, as you like to call it,
It was not a treat.
not as many people were fans. Carol's a very adventurous eater.
Yes.
Not all of us were as adventurous on the program. It has a red bean paste in the middle.
Yes.
Now, I was surprised at how sweet the pastry was.
Yeah, it was almost like a little pancake with the sweet bean on the inside of it.
Mm-hmm. Mae was not a fan.
I was not.
Oh.
No.
I did eat all of mine because the matcha tea was a little too strong for me.
Yeah.
But so it was fun. We took our shoes off. We did the whole ceremonial sitting at the table together. And one of the things that's really great about that experience, it connects really well with this book because it talks about ritual and the intention of having tea. And I think the Japanese have done an amazing job of kind of, highlighting that
Absolutely.
Yeah.
in their culture.
Yes.
What are some other kind of ways that we saw that, I guess, or that you saw that in Japan?
Yeah, I think even with the tea of just very intentional, like you said, sitting around, but you hold the bowl with two hands. And so you're really focused on what you're doing. And then even when they're out and about, they're very focused on being orderly and being mindful and respectful of others. And so I think with everything that I saw, that they were very intentional with what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
They were. They exuded structure and, cleanliness, mindfulness of their surroundings, the people, the community, the earth. So that was refreshing.
Yeah. And just so people think, this is not a pleasure trip. This is a work trip because we have students who study abroad. Actually, it's one of our more popular programs. We offer several courses over there. There's a wait list. Japanese culture is really something that our students are really interested in right now for a variety of reasons. But also, Japan is the number one country of foreign investment in Tennessee. And so we have a lot of industry partners from Japan. And I don't know if you want to speak to some of the things that you were able to experience as part of the program over there for that.
When we visited Nissan Training Center while we were over there, and we were able to see how much they value loyalty and dedication to their employer, and then the employer puts that back into their employee by offering them that opportunity to go through the training program. And it was great to see that their training program and their labs were set up very similar and they had the same content as what we were training in our labs here in the United States and in Tennessee. And so to see that similarity really shows that we in Tennessee, that we're on the forefront of the education and training that happens throughout all of our Japanese partners and in their manufacturing centers as well. So for me, that was really great to see just how much they valued the dedication and the loyalty and then put that back into their employees.
Yeah.
Loyalty stood out the most to me. When you commit to an organization, you are committing and, you stay there and they invest in you. They have their housing. They have housing for those learners that were in the educational setting there. So that shows their commitment to getting them trained and keeping them within their organization. So loyalty is key for the Japanese industries.
Yeah. And one of the things that I really appreciate every time that I'm able to go is see our students, on site, excited to be in a place that's totally new and just how they navigate that. But they're learning so many social and life skills through that experience as well.
Absolutely. You think about when you're in a different country that doesn't necessarily speak English. Some do, but they have to navigate those challenges and really be adaptable and figure out, okay, how do I communicate with somebody who's not speaking the same language that I do or don't have the same expectations of how we behave and how we present to each other. And so that just makes them more valuable as people and employees to be able to say, I understand differences and how to navigate those differences so that we can come to the same conclusions or same viewpoints.
Right. The students that I saw, they took it all with stride. They did not appear to miss a beat. It's like they were at home. They were there maybe a week before we had arrived, but it's like they were at home already. They had no issues getting around by themselves in the classroom and what have you. But they were at home.
Yeah.
And I think they were enjoying that challenge. Like they felt at home, but also they felt very like free to explore, and just I think they loved the challenge of the differences and figuring those things out.
Empowering to know.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's so many correlations with the book and what we've just mentioned our students are experiencing through study abroad. So I think this is a perfect fit for us to kind of dive in a little bit more to the book and some themes in your reflections as leaders. One of I like to pull out just little quotes from the book that we can kind of reflect on. One of the themes from the book is about the path to finding oneself, right? So we've got students going over there finding their path as well, but this is lifelong. All of us do this. So one of the excerpts from the book I want to share is the author states, "The way of tea teaches us that if we pause and take the time to look closely enough, it is possible that all of us can find ourselves in a good cup of tea. What is in the cup is less important than the tea offered. It offers freedom and time and space to feel comfort and let our mind wander." Carol, I might ask you to start with this reflection. I mean, do you think you have found yourself in who you are?
I think I've found parts of myself. I think if we look over our lives from, previous to current date and into the future, we're always discovering who we are. And as I tell my children, you're going to be so many different people in your life. So be open to that, be open to change, and realize that there are going to be pieces of you that don't fit you anymore, and you don't need that part of yourself anymore, and you can change and adapt and let go of that and embrace something new. And so I think for me, I've found parts of myself. I think of it, if you think of a cup as a mosaic, pieces of pottery put together, the glue is always the same. That's your true self, the values that you have. But those little pieces in the cup, they change. And you have to be okay with that, and be okay with people in your life, your relationships, that they're going to change too. And so how are we putting this mosaic together? But for me, it is about the growth and changing and experiencing life and trying new things and just being okay with sometimes uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what our future is. It's uncertain. We don't really have control over it necessarily, but being okay that I'm going to change to be multiple different people in my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think for me is like tea. Tea changes. As you said in the beginning, it's how it's prepared. Is it in hot water, cold water? Is it roasted? All of those things make it different. And I think that's what makes our lives different too. It's very similar to tea.
Mm-hmm. That's great. One of the other things, as we were kind of talking about that, is just kind of this process of discovery. And the author states that when we make our own discoveries, there's an organic element of surprise that signifies the spirit is leading us. It's a harder path, but it also makes things your own. So in some ways, our parents maybe have shaped the path and the beliefs that we're on, but other things also, challenges, have shaped us. What are some examples of ways others have helped you on your path?
So for me, with my parents, one of the biggest things that they taught me is hard work. We grew up on a farm. So 5 o'clock, you were out in the cow field, you were hoeing thistles, you were throwing hay, you were doing all the things that you needed to do for hard work. And that built community because you were with your family, you were with your friends, and you were out there supporting one another. So the hard work. And then my father worked, double shift, 16-hour days for as long as I could remember, second shift and overnight shifts. But he was always there for us. And so the value that he taught me was the little things are what make people feel valued.
Mm-hmm.
And so every day he would come home, and I have 2 sisters, and he would always have 3 Hostess cakes or a pack of Zingers, which are 3 in 1. Mm-hmm. And he would say, "Girls, I didn't eat all my lunch today. You can have whatever's left." And we'd get in there in that big black lunchbox and find these Hostess cakes. And we always wondered why Dad didn't eat all 3 of his cakes. And then we found out later that he would stop at a gas station on the way home from work after working 16 hours to buy these cakes, to put them in his lunchbox, and so that we could find them. And for me, that's what really taught me, was that and shaped me to say that it's the small things that make people feel valued.
Yeah.
And so that's what we want to bring into our lives, is making people feel valued through the way that we show up for them.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And your story about how your daughter gave you that mug too connects with what you've already done in your relationship with her. Mae, what about you?
Gosh, my parents definitely shaped who I am today. My father We lived in the country. We lived in Beach Hill, Macon County. I had a small farm. My dad worked nights in industry, and during the day, he worked on our farm. I remember so many times, gosh, this makes me want to tear up. I would wake up and he may be walking home because he fell asleep coming home from work, and he crashed his car. Or when he broke his ribs one day. There's several things. His hard work and his determination made me who I am today. And then my mother, my parents were great. They did not have children. They adopted 3 kids all at one time. I have a sister who is a twin of mine, which is a little different story. I'm not sure how that works out. And I have an older brother who's about 10 months older than us. But they adopted all 3 of us. And we grew up great. We didn't have a lot, but what we had, we thought we had the world.
Sure.
But the love that they showed us, giving back and giving to these kids they had no clue about, is what shaped me and continues to make me want to give and to be there for others. I have a great love for children, and that comes from my mom and dad. I've taken in kids that were in foster care. When they grew out of foster care, they needed a place to go. I let them stay with me. I have my nephew's sons who live with me now, but I just have a love for people, and that's from my family, and that's what my parents instilled in me, my church family. So they have shaped my life, and they've always told us you can be anybody that you want to be. Just keep striving to be the best. So as far as who I am, we're ever evolving. Life happens, and you change, you adjust. But you still continue to move forward and you move upward. So that's who I am and how I've been shaped to be who I am today.
Yeah, that's beautiful. We've talked a little bit already about kind of courage to start new ventures. I mean, because we all face challenges, and then how do we move through that? The author talks a lot about taking this position of the ratio of dream to reality is in direct proportion to sweat equity and time. So Mae, you were just kind of speaking to this a little bit. Carol, do you have some personal examples of something maybe you dreamed to do and maybe share the effort that went into making that a reality?
Yeah. So after a few years of working in higher education, I knew then that I wanted to be a community college president. And the very first step is really saying it out loud. Because so often we discount what our dreams are. Can I really do this? Should I, as a first generation college student, should I dream that big? But I knew I really felt my purpose was in helping others through education. And I had only been in higher ed a couple years when I really wanted to do that. So I set about figuring out what it takes to be a community college president. What are the competencies that I needed? And what are the skills and experiences that I needed? And I decided to take on as many responsibilities as I could and join every committee that I could and do all the professional development and just really throw myself into learning everything I possibly could about community college, about leadership, about helping others and supporting them, and wrote my dissertation on becoming a community college president. And so it took years to go through that and experience everything, and to finally become a community college president was so meaningful to me because I knew that's what I had wanted to do. It was a goal of mine. And and there were steps along the way that I would reach for a position. And I remember applying to be the director of instructional support services at Hagerstown Community College. And I did not get that position. And I had to reassess, okay, why didn't I get this position? What am I missing? And then go back and write a list of all the skills and the competencies and things that I needed to learn, and did that. And 18 months later, that same position, the same college, it came open. Yeah. And I applied for it again. I emailed the vice president, said, I don't know if you remember me, but I applied for this position and went through the interview process. And he called me and said, absolutely, I remember you. And let's, we'll do an interview. And I got the position. And so it's taking the failures along the way and not saying, well, that was their problem, but that was something I needed to learn and grow through. And so just being able to do that and experience everything has really made it possible for me to achieve that that dream.
That's great. I think that you just talked a little bit about something that could probably inspire others, but I mean, are there people or places that you've been inspired to make a difference in the world? What inspires you?
And what inspires me is just helping people feel good about themselves and about their future, and being able to grow, and that failure is okay. I used to be so worried about that, about failing, and that just meant that there was a deficit or something that was bad. But that's part of life is failing, and helping people to realize that that's okay, and to feel confident in themselves, to be able to take on something that's scary, and to be able to rise above it, even if you fail, to just come back and do it again and keep trying. So that's what inspires me and keeps me kind of motivated, is to just help other people feel good about where they're headed.
Well, that's great that you're in a president role and can do that then for many people at your institution. I think the fear of the unknown is something that the author talks about, is something that obviously holds folks back. The author states, freedom is the way we are bound to one another without anxiety, without fear of death, without worrying about judgment. So learning from the past and each other gives us insight that allows us to let go of what holds us down. Mae, can you speak about how overcoming fear of the unknown through learning and understanding helps us make progress and achieve that freedom?
On the bottom of my email is a tagline that I've used for years. It says, be motivated by the possibility of success rather than by the fear of failure. So I live by that. And, I feel like if I strive to be, whatever I do, I strive to be the best at it that I can. And I want to motivate others to do the same. So if you go into a process feeling like you're not going to be able to do it, or that you're going to be a failure at it, then you're already setting yourself up for failure. So go into it with the intent to be successful. Lead others with the intent to be successful. Guide others, inspire others to be successful, and success will come. Now, we will have our failures, but we're not gonna lean on that. We're not gonna sit in that failure. We're gonna get up and move on and be successful at some point. That's how I go through life, is just striving to be successful. Those failures will come, but you don't sit in that. You keep moving. You keep going further, because the success will come.
And that's something that we've been working really hard to do across the system, is this idea around mindset with students. And I've talked about this in previous podcasts, but it really is about how, even as leaders, we model that for students in our attitude about you can grow, you just don't know it yet. Right?
Yes.
And don't say you can't do it. You just don't know it yet. And how you keep working towards and asking for help.
Yes, absolutely. And I think there's a saying, and I don't know if it was Henry Ford, but I used to tell my children that whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you're right. And that just simply means it's really what you believe is going to happen. And whether you believe you could achieve it, you're right. You can achieve it. If you believe you can't achieve it, you're right, because you're not going to let yourself achieve it. And so it is really all comes down to mindset and what can you learn from whatever that experience is.
Now, I don't want to discount the fact, though, that there is sometimes things that we are faced with that aren't just about our mindset, right? I mean, certainly there are people and things that can feel unjust. There are things places where we're incorrectly judged. How do you navigate that, Mae, with an intent to get to a sense of freedom, I guess?
Well, I always try to put my best foot forward. People will judge, but you can't base your life on people's judgment of you. You have your own beliefs. You know whom you are and whom you want to be. They don't know you. They only know what they see. And to prejudge someone is wrong in itself. But personally, you need to always present the best part of you. Now, I know we have our bad times, but, sometimes you got to check that before you get where you're going, because you don't want to put that bad feeling or that that bad spirit out there. You just want to always be positive. And that's how I look at things. You know, I can go around life being, always me all the time. But why? Why would I want to be in that mindset? That doesn't propel you any further. You want to always be positive and present that to others around you, because your beliefs and feelings can reflect on someone else. And we don't want to go into a room with that ho-hum is me feeling and then bring the entire room down. You go in with good spirits.
Yeah. Well, that's certainly something for all of us to keep reminding ourselves of, because we slide into patterns, right? And we are just who we are. We're human. Human nature kicks in. So let's talk a little bit. One of the themes from the book is about celebrating freedom from our past. And so we can have these great reflections on mistakes we've made, or maybe others that we've learned from. For the purpose of the book and the author, they talk a lot about approaching tea with reverence for the fact that there are a lot of lessons that it can teach us along the way. So we've talked about the metaphor. When you drink tea, you start to kind of feel it take root, change your composition, that we should drink tea with eyes wide open, not lured by fancy packaging that blindsides us and begs us to judge the book by the cover. So we can share this cup of tea and celebrate freedom when we do that. And as you look back on your life, this is a question for both of you. Do you have some examples of where the fancy package lured you in and how you came to some hard realizations about what was going on later?
Gosh, personally, yes.
Yeah.
I've seen some fancy packaging that turned out to be complete and utter fails. And of course, during that process, you try to make the best of the situation until you realize this package is making your package look bad. So you get out, you pick yourself up, and you move forward again. So, yeah, I've been the victim of fancy packaging.
Yeah.
I regretfully say that.
And I think sometimes we put that on ourselves too. And so for me, it was, years of trying to be perfect and that perfectionism. And you had to have all the right things and do all the right things, say all the right things. And it really took me a long time, probably until my 40s, to realize that trying to fit into that perfect fancy package really kept you from experiencing life in a true and real way. And it kept you from being authentic. It kept you from being, true to who you are, but making those deeper connections. And so, kind of get rid of those trappings of being perfect and worrying about how your hair was or what you said or how you showed up, and realize that we all have those things. That's what makes us all so beautiful and wonderful, is that what people would say flaws. That's just who we are, and that's part of us. And so even as we age and all of those things, as we're talking about women, so often, for women, you can't age, that's a bad thing. And so, and so many women are pulled into that fancy package, and we should just show up as who we are. And just like tea, we're not everybody's cup of tea. And right, some people find us, as we've talked about the matcha, some people find us refreshing and sweet, and some people find us intense and bold, and some people find us bitter. And it's all about we stay who we are, and it's those experiences allow us to connect with people and be real, true, and authentic.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, being that speaks to me in so many ways. Being authentic, not the fake.
Yes,
I definitely connect with others in that way.
Yes. And that's really how we make connections in life, is showing who we really are and showing all of our flaws, insecurities, and making mistakes, because then other people are comfortable around us because they can be who they are.
Right. And I know that I'm in good company when I say it at midlife. Yes, as a woman. I think back on my earlier years and how I was very caught up on the impression part of everything, right? Making the right impressions. So
yes.
All that glitters is not gold.
Right.
So,
Exactly. Well, and again, we're focusing on this series with stories of women and healing. So I want to lean into this a little bit. In the book, the author reminds us that one of the reasons why tea is picked by hand instead of with mechanical pickers is because traditionally the pickers are women with no political or social status. So many free trade organizations recognize that in our global economy, working together to increase wages and work conditions also supports women globally to feel freedom at the local level. So a little known fact is that except for the Charleston tea plantation in South Carolina, all commercial tea is grown overseas and is handpicked. It's usually comprised of the bits of tea left that are then added with like lemon and artificial sweetener. That's kind of the generic tea to make that instant iced tea that we all drink. So I think it's really good for us to think about globally and how it connects to women and the social institution of tea historically, right? And we're talking about empowering women through this conversation. What are some social causes, either domestic or internationally, Mae, that maybe you're particularly passionate about during your life? How have you kind of grappled with those issues over time?
Women's health stands out for me, and taking shortcuts. Some tend to take shortcuts with women's health, but we all have to be selective in our healthcare providers. Don't take a shortcut when it comes to your health. And everyone should have access to health. That's a big thing. There's healthcare out there, but everyone does not have meaningful and or healthcare that is up to standard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, we don't want to be that person who gets shunned to the side because they don't have the ability to pay. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes people are thought of being less than when it comes to healthcare because of their social status.
Yeah.
So women's healthcare is something that I am really trying to stay close to and help others, and just to educate some of the younger women in the community.
Right.
I talk to.
That's great. Yeah, and I think again, traveling internationally, you see differences in healthcare in other countries compared to the U.S. There's definitely some lessons to be learned from other countries with that. Yeah. Any causes, Carol, that you want to mention? I know this question originally wasn't directed to you, but I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, so for me, it is, women supporting women. And so often we see that as women move through life, that there's this false competition between women, and instead of building each other up and supporting them, we often turn against each other and kind of, sometimes it's unintentional, that you're not really thinking that you're doing that, but it's being able to empower women to empower other women. And so for me, that's something that is very important, is that we should all be supporting each other and bringing each other up.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, we should never look down on someone unless we're looking down to lift them up.
Yeah, very well said.
One of the other pieces of this book is talking about finding common ground and the power for change. I like this excerpt from the book. Sipping tea invites us to imagine the plant's origins, soil, roots, and journey to the cup. Like humanity, tea begins with the original grace in a place called Eden, where there was nothing to distinguish a weed from a flower. Carol, this journey of tea from its origins to our cup serves as a metaphor for the human experience and our connections to nature. Can you maybe talk a little bit more about how that resonates with you?
Yeah, so when you think about, as we were talking earlier, that tea is you said it's all from the same plant. Mm-hmm. It's just how it's prepared or how it's experienced. And I think when we think about life, it's very true. It's all about the environment that we're in, what shapes us, as we've talked throughout this podcast, of the influence that have been on our life, and connecting with where we're going. I think one of the most valuable things is to get to know somebody and learn their story. And it's also one of the most interesting things to do is to hear about somebody's story, and sort of like tea, what journey did it take to get to my cup? But what journey did a person take to get to where they are right now? And what happened in their life, who supported them, who opposed them, and the challenges that they had to overcome. And so if you think about all of the different flavors of tea and all of that it all came from the same source, they just had different life experiences to get to us.
Right.
For me, that's kind of how it connects to life, is is very similar.
Yeah. And it's also a spiritual journey for some of us. And so Mae, just kind of thinking about your own spiritual journey, what does that look like?
Well, my church family and my family have shaped me. And, I could have gone many different directions, but, they've always been there to support me and lift me up. So, it's the people that surround you that you call your community that help you and lead you and guide you and keep you on the right path. I did not know until I read the book about how tea is tea, and until you do different things with it, it becomes other processes with it.
Mm-hmm.
So, that leads into the people that you surround yourself with can guide you either in a good way or they can guide you in a bad way.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then it takes your personal beliefs and feelings as to which path you take. So, that's.
And it really speaks to, again, the power of community.
Mm-hmm.
And so, who's been your community that maybe holds you accountable, holds you up? Because tea, again, is a very communal kind of thing, and not only in how it's made, but also, again, in the idea of how we, drink tea with each other.
Yeah, of course. Like I said, my church family and my family, and I have a group of lady friends that, that we get together and we're not necessarily sipping tea.
Yeah.
Or a little wine or what have you.
Yeah.
But, we lift each other up and we applaud one another. We get excited when they have wins. We are there for them if they have a fall.
Mm-hmm.
So stuff, my little lady friends, as well as my church community and my family.
Yeah. Some people make resolutions at the end of the year to hold themselves accountable. Carol, what are your thoughts about that?
So I think it's always important to set not necessarily a resolution of I am no longer going to do X, but to think about what am I going to experience. And so, I'm not a swimmer. And I'm afraid of the water. But, if you set that goal that I'm going to learn at least how to swim a little bit, at least, 40 meters, 50 meters, 100 meters, whatever that is. And for me, I think setting those kinds of goals, I'm going to do something that's out of my comfort zone at least one time this year, something that's really scary or challenging. So I think setting intentions around your life experiences and what you're going to do to grow is very important. And I think that's what keeps us being moving forward. I have a colleague who just turned 50 and she has a list of 50 things that she's going to do this year. And they're small things and they're big things. And so I think that helps us not just let the days pass by. Because so often we can get caught up in, we get up, we go to work, we come home, we eat dinner, we go to bed, you get up, you go to work, and you just keep yours on repeat, where if you set and be very intentional, and you mentioned very early in the podcast about tea makes us be intentional. And so if we're setting a list of things to be intentional about how we're going to connect with others, am I going to make sure I speak to strangers and go out of my comfort zone to give a speech in front of people? If that's not something you're comfortable doing, you're always going to continue to grow and experience new things and continue to enjoy life that way.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Tea is a natural way also for us to focus our mind, body, and soul. It's so the idea about rejuvenation with tea and the relationship between tea and religion is very strong. They have formal ceremonies. We talked a little bit about the tea ceremony in Japan. Rituals, well, it's kind of a habit, right? It keeps us on track. So there's benefits to that. It reminds us that there's always something new still, though, to learn and discover and incorporate. So you're familiar with the phrase, your cup is empty. We've heard this. What are some ways that you rejuvenate?
Yeah, so I think we all have very challenging jobs and we have families. And so sometimes we do find that our cup is empty. And for me, every morning I sit out on the front porch swing, and it may be for 10 minutes. And I turn on my bird app and see all the birds that are around and what new birds can I find that day. And it's not tea, it's coffee, but I have my cup of coffee and, just watch the sun and look at the blue sky. And so sitting there for just a peaceful, no phone other than my app, And then sometimes my husband will join me out there and we just sit and swing on the front porch for 10 minutes before we start our day. And so that is just a moment to reconnect with nature, to connect with ourselves, and just have a few quiet moments. And then at the end of the day, of course, if there's, walking and, different things to try to be active and be outside and just spend time together with other people. But sometimes we just need the few minutes to ourselves. So for me, it's that morning sunshine, cup of coffee, quiet time.
Kind of recenter.
Yeah.
Or you start your day.
Yeah.
I love it. I learned this bird thing about you when we were in Japan.
Yes.
Carol is like on the search for all kinds of birds. And I was like, what is she doing? I thought you were doing it for someone else more than just for you.
It's something that I started because of my son. He does this, and it's a way for me to connect with him. And so I got the app, and so I could show him, like, I got these new birds today, and it's a way for us to have a connection and conversation. But it really is just fun. It's one of those things that if you do it and you get a new bird, it's like, oh, I got a new bird. I haven't had this one before. And it's, I like to check the list, check the box. So for me, it was just something that was fun to do. But then you also start tuning in when you hear birds, and it becomes very relaxing when you hear their song, and you can start identifying what bird that might be. And so, yeah, for me, it was just initially a way to connect with my son. And then we still talk about that. I was sending him the pictures of birds from Japan and those types of things. But then it just becomes something fun and exciting for me and relaxing at the same time.
What's funny is I don't watch very much reality TV, but there's a bird watcher, professional bird watcher on one of those reality shows right now. And they travel around Europe, and they're trying to figure out where they are.
Okay.
And so when I saw that, I was like, there's professional bird, that you can make a living off that. But I didn't know there's a lot of people into this.
Yeah.
So that's great. All right. So we are drinking our tea here, talking today. Is there a particular way that you all like your tea? Any unspoken rules that you have maybe for your life, for those at the center of your life that you want to mention?
I prefer iced tea.
Okay.
With a hint of lemon. And then if I drink hot tea, it's just regular hot tea, no sugar, and I just relax in it. Yeah. So there, it's just for me. My tea moments are just for me.
Okay.
So my favorite's matcha. If I'm going to have tea, I like to have matcha tea. And it may be, if I'm out and I order at a coffee shop, it's usually like a matcha latte with milk or something. At home, I make my own matcha, and it's just matcha and water. I like it. It just feels like it's bold, and I like the flavor of that. And but for rules, one of the things for I was talking to my daughter, and she was talking about baking, and she's like, I don't measure anything because I don't follow rules, and some of the things weren't turning out the way she wanted. And I said, well, are you substituting new rules for old rules? So your new rule is that you don't follow rules. And so sometimes you have to. And so for me, it's about, yes, break the rules when you feel like, okay, that's not fitting me anymore. It doesn't fit my life. But don't substitute new rules for old rules. Just then make you feel like you're being, changing. You're just transitioning into a new set of boxes. So for me, it's always realizing what boxes am I putting myself in, and trying and experimenting with something new.
Yeah. So I'm experimenting with making bread this summer, and I will tell you, you have to follow the ingredients very closely, or that bread will not turn out correctly.
Yes.
So there are certain places where you do have to very closely follow the rules for you to get the product you're seeking.
Yes.
For sure. One of the things as we think about rejuvenation is also this power of self-assessment, visioning, preparing for the challenges ahead. So I guess, Carol, one of my thoughts is, like, you have these moments in the morning where you're getting started, but are there other ways that you pursue kind of this sense of enlightenment to kind of figure out the path ahead?
Yeah, I like to listen to podcasts, and that's podcasts that are from all different viewpoints, and maybe not viewpoints that I necessarily support or agree with, but I want to hear all the different perspectives, because I want to see Am I thinking about something wrong? Do I not have all the information? What do other people think? And to try to make sure that I'm not just putting blinders on to my own perspective. And so I listen to a variety of different podcasts just to hear those things, talk to people and get what their thoughts are. One of my things as a leader, I always say, what are your thoughts on this? Or here's what I'm thinking to say, or here's an email I'm going to send. What are your perspectives? What does this say to you? And so for me, just hearing what other people think and feel, and always taking that into account as helpful for me. And then building for the future is just trying to live a healthy lifestyle and just making sure that I connect, as we get so busy, connecting with my husband and making sure that we have time together because we've been together for 26 years and you think maybe after 26 years it's just easy to, and you don't have to, but you still have to be intentional to make sure you get another 26 years and so it's just reminding yourself, I haven't had a conversation with my son or my daughters in a while. Let me call them or text them. And so again, it all comes back to connection and making sure we're intentional about setting those connections. And that's what helps us, I think, build for a future because we don't know what the future is. If you look over the last 10 years, I couldn't have told you anything that would happened in the last 10 years.
Right,
so I have no idea what's going to happen in the next 10. But if I can build the relationships and build value for myself and making sure that I'm in 10 years, I know I'm going to be with me. That's the only thing I can guarantee is that I will be with me. And so I have to make sure that I'm taken care of and that I'm building relationships and connections with people so that I have others with me.
Yeah, that's a great transition to kind of the final theme of the book, which is finding our way home. And Mae, my question for you is, again, we're drinking tea, we're connecting with our past and sharing stories today in this conversation. We're talking about appreciating the present moment, listening to birds in the morning. And then talking about envisioning a better future. How do you do that?
Well, I always want to make the tomorrow a better day than today. You always go into the mindset of, I can be better. I can help someone that I didn't help today, tomorrow. Go into it like always giving and trying to be helpful. So, like when we're talking about resolutions, or I don't make them, but if I were to make one, I would say that, what I want to do this year is help someone else. I want to be a better me in the next year than I am this year. I want to lift someone up. I want to be a leader. I want to be an inspiration, a mentor to young ladies who may not have found their way. I just want to help someone along the way like I've been helped along the way. I want to always be able to give back because, there's so many people that go around the world who are just may be going around with blinders on and don't know that there's so many avenues or people who are more than willing to help them, to guide them, to help them to be a better person. And, I'm not professing to be some grand person, but I know that as much is given, much is received, much needs to be given. So I want to be that person to give back. That's what I want to do from this moment on. So it's to give back to others.
Yeah. I didn't talk about my teacup at the start because I wanted to kind of bring it full circle. And we've been talking about reflections of our past. So I have a teacup that has dogwoods on it. This belonged to my grandmother, who was originally from East Tennessee, moved to South Dakota. That's where I was born. My family has a South Dakota connection. But the dogwood reminds me of East Tennessee. So that's why I have this. And it talks, it speaks to thinking about our past, but then how we're moving forward. And I'm the future generation here, right? Drinking something that's significantly older than I am. But also, the thing that I appreciate about doing this podcast and the book, and I'm really excited about hearing kind of your reflections today, is like, this is just really empowering for me to hear from other women and other women in the TBR system about your perspectives, how you're taking time to take care of yourselves and how you're supporting other women. So thank you for this conversation today. I think it will be inspiring for others who are listening in. As we conclude today's podcast, I'm going to leave us with a final thought from the book. The work doesn't end, but that thirst for something more is part of the human condition. It's something still a bit out of our reach and something that will fill an emptiness that lingers somewhere between our heads and our hearts. Tea is a symbol of how we can love well, even if someone doesn't accept it. Tea poured out for others and ourselves is the outward and visible sign that we are tending to our interior life as well as serving our neighbors as ourselves. So thank you for sharing tea with me today and conversation. It's been
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Yes, it's been wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this edition of From the VC's Bookshelf, brought to you by TBR, the College System of Tennessee, powering the state's economy and changing the lives of thousands of graduates, starting successful careers each year. To learn more about upcoming book selections or to register to attend discussions live, visit tbr.edu/bookshelf.